to change her mind, he gently nodded and followed her path. The two walked toward what was believed to be Mary's bedroom. They both stopped, paused, and took a deep breath. Mary, mustering up the courage in the midst of a lot of confusion, turned the knob. As she slowly turned the knob, Thomas stepped oh so closely behind her, giving her his confirmation and support. The two opened the door and most likely will never forget what they saw. Nothing. Completely nothing. The whole room was vacant, as if nobody had ever been there. "What?" Mary proclaimed. "What is actually going on right now? This makes little to no sense." Thomas, just as much in awe, simply replied, "Let's go now." The two headed back to the car, leaving the front door open, making it blatantly obvious that something had been there. Heading inside the car, they sat still for several minutes, thinking, feeling each other's energy, feeling each other's state of panic anxiety. They finally decided to start the car and head back home. Chapter 4. The Art of Confusion. "How come my house was perfectly fine and yours wasn't?" asked Thomas. "I don't know," said Mary, staring out through the window. "I just want to go to sleep." "It's okay, Mary," Thomas said, placing a gentle hand on Mary's shoulder while having a firm grip on the wheel. "We'll figure this out. We'll be home soon." While heading back to Thomas's home, the two noticed something strange. Lights. A bunch of lights. Sirens, horns, all those that would raise anxiety again. "Wait, pull over," said Mary. "Wait, let me find a safe spot on the side of the road," remarked Thomas. As they pulled over to the opposite side of the ambulance, Thomas noticed something. "Wait, did you notice something?" he asked Mary. "What?" Mary replied. "Did you notice how we basically went from the store to my place and your place and pretty much encountered nobody?" "What do you mean?" asked Mary. "I saw people at the store, just not our parents or anyone on the way to our place." "Yeah," Thomas replied. "I saw people at the store too, but I don't think they saw us." "Really?" Mary asked. "Yeah, maybe we were having so much fun we didn't really pay anyone any mind," said Thomas. Mary: "Yeah, that's pretty strange. We should go see what happened on the other side of the road. I'm pretty curious." As soon as Thomas parked the car, he noticed Mary jolting out the car while lunging toward the ambulance. She felt a brief grab on her shoulder as Thomas reached for it, trying to stop her. "Come on, wait." Mary was soon on her way, leaving nothing but her little footprints in the snow as a trace. Walking ever so quickly across the road to make to the other side, Thomas, now sprinting over to catch up with his dear friend, he followed a few feet behind Mary, stopping right in his tracks soon after. "Look!" he shouted. Pointing his finger, Mary turned back, seeing a huge semi-truck coming from nowhere, heading right towards the house. "No!" she shouted. Running to get to the other side of the road, it seemed as if the truck was veering towards her. "Stop! Wait!" Thomas shouted, waving his hands in the air trying to flag the vicious truck driver down. To no avail, the truck driver got closer, closer, reaching his and her final destination. Mary was then struck. "No! No!" Thomas shouted. There wasn't anybody around, no one to hear his shouts, his calls for help, his confusion and despair. He then felt a very intense ache in his stomach. Out of nowhere, the pain shot from a 0 to an 8, proceeding to what could be a 12. His head suddenly started to throb. He felt very weird, feet and hands cold. Everything was proceeding so fast he couldn't pinpoint all that was going on. He passed out, right in the middle while facing the other side of the street, lastly seeing nothing but his vision blurring as he headed face first towards a patch of snow. Chapter 5. Home Alone? He soon. Chapter 3. The Confession. I start to see everything turn to a cartoon world. My view turns out of my normal first-person view to an outside third-person view. I'm seeing myself dip in and out of my normal viewpoints and start to see more and more of this cartoony figure of me. I have no idea what's going on, and I start to think that it's actually kind of cool. It eventually gets to the point where I decide this is a little too weird for me and get the urge to actually exit my room to go into my living room. This is where my family is at, as I want to be with them just in case. I walked to my living room and lay down on my mother's bed. This was a time that we were in deep poverty and we had a 2-bedroom place sharing 5 to 6 people sometimes. I lay on her bed and start giggling. My mom asks, "What happened?" I look over and see my older sister in the kitchen and giggle even more. I respond by simply saying, "Nothing." It was at this point I noticed my body started to feel like it was burning, as if someone had rubbed icy hot all over me. I saw as a popular American product that people use to treat joints, aches, and pains. As I start to feel heat over my body, it spreads, it intensifies. That's when I reached a point where I decided to tell my sister and mother what's going on. I, 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 I took some Cheetos. It wasn't bad. It tasted pretty good, but I think something is happening. What? My mother replied. I don't know. Feel like, I don't feel good, but I feel like I'm burning all over, I responded. My vision, my body started moving and swaying so much shortly after. I didn't know which dialogue was going on between me and my family, but I knew it was very scary for me. I would see what we all consider reality, then it would shift to a movie theater that I was sitting in. This movie theater only had me watching the film. Nobody else was there. The movie theater showed my reflection in it. I was literally watching myself on the big screen. I guess that's cool. A personal premiere of my own movie, where I'm the main attraction? Not really. As I'm burning, I'm watching myself, going from a movie view to my own view and back again. I start seeing my normal view of reality, my whole vision getting really foggy. I would see what's considered real, and then my vision would get foggy and I'd see a script. The script read things like the Star Wars opening, that constant, slow scroll. Only with this script, it wouldn't change until I repeat what it read out loud. The script was The Musical Ghost. Universe game went sideways. So this story might be a bit long, but it sure was a fun one for me personally, as I rather enjoy these kinds of things. I come from a very religious family, and a lot of us have had paranormal encounters. My grandmother's house was haunted with someone having hung themselves in the backyard many years before they even built the house there, and to this day they frequently have priests come in and bless every room in the house. So many of my family members have been able to see things the regular eye can't see, including me from a young age when I used to see things in my house, which once even drove me to run to a locked door hard enough to get a concussion. Anyways, this story takes place around about late October last year. I'm a student at Stellenbosch University in South Africa, so most of my friends lived in their own flats around campus, and my one friend Bianca had lived in a small one-person flat that was really quite small. Basically a long hallway of a room leading to a balcony. So we all used to hang out in her room while listening to music, playing Uno, drinking beer, and getting really stoned till the early morning, as good students do. And we had this game we called the Universe game, where we basically just asked the universe a question. She had a mega playlist of songs, and she'd put it on ultimate shuffle, and whatever song would play after the question would be the universe's answer. Whatever interpretation you take from it works for you. So there had been a couple of nights where we'd be hanging out and the lights would just start to flicker in weird beats. Now my friends, I hadn't known that I can't feel these kind of things coming before, and as it happens, they just dismiss it as a switch spazzing out. But this kept on happening more and more each day, until one night we were all playing the game again, and when the answer came, the lights acted up again, but this time we all looked over to the light switch and saw a faded white hand at the switch. Just a hand, flicking the switch, and it just disappeared and the lights went back to normal. At this point, everyone was freaking out, but I was really just kind of excited by it. For some reason, it didn't feel like any threatening presence. It was oddly playful to me. Once again, just keeping this to myself and playing along with everyone else's reaction. I did study acting after all, haha, laughs comfortably. So one night, a few weeks after that night, my friends were all out of town, and I had a key to my friend's place, so I decided I'm gonna go stay over there for a few nights just to hang out and draw on my favorite couch. So it all went smoothly, and I was actually getting some nice work done. And been playing the Universe game a lot throughout this time. This one night, close to 3 a.m., I was drawing and playing the game and decided to go on YouTube and find a random playlist to mix things up, because I'm a rebel like that. So I find one, and as a couple of questions and things go smoothly as I'm drawing, I suddenly just get a weird surge of energy through me, and at the same time, a light start going apeshit. I look down at my phone, and the song playing is called Ghost. I shit you not, I had not smoked enough weed to make that shit up. Anyway, I jumped up and looked around to see whatever was going on, but just as usual, it ended up as soon as it started. I must say, this is one of the more pleasant experiences I've had in this line of things. I'm not even getting into my sleep paralysis and night terrors that made me punch things in my sleep. Being choked in your sleep is by something you can't see or dragged halfway under your bed in your dreams, and actually waking up under your bed. Meh, there's many more to come, y'all. I was in the cemetery for 3 minutes before I ran out of there scared for my life. Before I tell my story, I was in the cemetery for 3 minutes before I ran out of there scared for my life. My family is Irish, and the Gaelic people believe that on the night of Samhain, Halloween, that the spirit world and the mortal world's boundaries would vanish and the dead would wander the earth. My grandfather used to tell me old stories every Halloween that were passed down for millennia about this night and the evil and supernatural things that would happen. Most famously of a boy wandering the forest of Samhain night and then being lost in the spirit world forever. 2009, my senior year of high school, my grandfather called me that afternoon to say, "I have no stories for you, but you're 18, it's a full moon on Halloween. All I'm saying is that if you want to see something, this is the night to do it." My friend Elle and I, being from a small rural town in northern Illinois, drove down the back roads deep into the cornfields for the cemetery I used to drive by a lot. We thought it'd be fun to go to before going to a huge Halloween party that night, just to be festive. As we pulled up and parked across the street, Elle said to me, "I have a bad feeling about this place. I'm staying in that car." I noticed he was holding his rosary in his hand that he usually has around his neck, so I said I'd leave the driver's door window open for him so that he could feel involved. I got out of the car and walked up the gravel road that cut the middle of the cemetery in half. I walk until I'm in the center of the cemetery and I start asking some questions to provoke a response. I didn't believe this stuff was real, so I said it was very half-assedly. Very suddenly it got silent, no wind or anything. Then from this great big evergreen tree in front of me, all these crows shot out of it and they heard a loud bang or something. I then heard footsteps in front of me to my right on the leaves, and then I heard them Elle shouted from the car, "Dude, there's someone by that tree." I turned to the evergreen tree and I saw someone standing there half behind the tree facing me. Instantly didn't look right to me. It looked like someone's shadow was solid black and it appeared to move even when standing still. Kind of like the outline animation of Ed, Edd n Eddy. There was a pause for a second, and then it just sprinted towards me. It was fight or flight time. A survey said, "Noping the fuck out of there" was the number one answer. I ran out of there faster than I've ever run in my life, jumped into my car, and we drove out there pedal to the floor. The creepiest part is that I looked back at it in my side and rearview mirrors. It was standing on the edge of the cemetery under that streetlight at the road as far as it could go. Kind of like there was an invisible wall there and it was pressing itself up against it, trying to go as far as it could. It was so black that it made the night sky behind it look dark purple. My senses told me this thing really wanted to get me. However, we got 30 seconds down the road and started freaking out. Like, holy shit, that was awesome. We drove to the party and told that story a million times. That being said, I've never been back at night and I don't want to ever unless absolutely necessary. I know this is a long one. Thanks for reading. This morning, the doors to our apartment complex were welded shut. I'm starting to think that it was a good idea. Part 4. There's something outside my door. Something's lurking at the stairwell, going up and down all 5 floors. I was lured to his presence by a scream one late evening. Someone must have come out of the smoke and maybe socialized with his acquaintances when they saw it. There were no sounds of struggle, nor any yelps of pain, only terror. I'm now glad that nature instilled that need to cry out when you're faced with something horrifying, something so inexplainable it rocks your understanding of the world around you. That way, you warn your pack about the danger. Even if you don't survive, the others learn to stay wary. Your death becomes a noble sacrifice, a meaningful event when you succumb to your terror in the last moments. And I barely managed to squeeze my own scream of terror, and when I realized that the shriek that creature emitted was not the one I'd heard before, it was not the primal yell that had haunted us for the last week. This was something new. Something that somehow had managed to find its way into our apartment complex despite the precautions that had been taken. I spent half an hour looking out the eye hole, trying to catch a glimpse of it. The dim light bulb outside provided just enough light to see what was going on. At one point, something suddenly obscured the light, and I heard a pitter-patter across my door. A second confusion was followed by a terrifying realization, and jumped back from the door, trying to hold back my scream of surprise and shock. Whatever it was, it just crawled across my door on its many legs. It could crawl on the walls. This means that the door to the roof is now a huge opening in our defenses. In the morning, me and the other guys from our militia carefully stepped out to take a look at the damage it had done. We found a bloody spot on the 4th floor and a long blood trail which led to the roof. There, it led us towards the edge of the roof where it ended. The creature was just not found outside our house. It killed one of ours and then dragged him off to its nest. Since there are 2 creatures now, I feel I should start giving them the names. Ape Demon or the Ape. Sounds like a fitting description for the one that had been terrorizing us for the last few days. And on the next day, everyone unanimously started calling the newcomer the Crawler. So that's what we're going with now. So if the ape is a juggernaut that watches the streets, the crawler is an infiltrator that sneaks in and attacks us where we live. A demon ape and the crawler. God, just 2 weeks ago, I just wouldn't have thought that those are the words I'd use with a serious face. Since that event, we've put a lock on the door that leads to the roof. I think it was long overdue. It's just, we never thought we'd need to do that. I pray that will suffice to keep it out. And I make sure to have my curtains closed at all times. I'd hate to one day look outside and see that thing crawl across my window. And I'd hate to see me inside, an easy prey, ready for consumption. I'm more and more concerned with what's our end game. There's no chance that the water in the pipes could have gone so bad in just over a week that it would have become so toxic. Bacteria don't kill you one night. They don't make you foam at your mouth. They don't make your skin purple. The water has some toxins in it now, which tells me that to our government, we're no more than unwanted eyewitnesses. If we make it to the other part of town where the gunshots are heard, we won't be rescued. We'll meet a firing squad. The food becomes a problem. Yesterday I heard someone walking around asking neighbors if they had some salt, just a cooking salt, to make their boring dish more pleasurable. I heard 3 of my neighbors tell them to get lost. But who am I to judge? When they rung my bell, I didn't even open the door. I knew that it's just salt that they were looking for, but you can never be too careful. Perhaps it was their way of gauging the situation. Perhaps they'll think that if I have salt to spare, then I have plenty of other food inside and that I'm a viable target. Perhaps I'm just talking nonsense. 2 days ago, I carefully checked the door in the basement that led to the flight of stairs where the bandits live. It was locked on a hanging lock, but neither I nor any other tenants heard the welding, which means that if anything, it could be broken down. I need to get to the welder. This personal quest of mine that started out of boredom and curiosity has grown into a necessity and prerequisite for my survival. They must know something. They are calling all the shots on where everybody goes and what parts of the building we have access to. They might have the tools to get us all out of here. I've thought about it. My only chance of making it is getting a torch or a buzzsaw from them, whichever he happens to have. Cut the hatch that leads to the sewers open and escape through it. It's probably a maze down there, so if I make a wrong call on where to get out of it and come face to face with the military or the beast outside, I'm done for. But it's better than pushing my luck by trying to escape through the surface. The only problem is getting to him before the bandits he lives with gets to us. The cage gate that he's installed on the roof entrance has latches in the lock, which means that it can be opened by them, which means that it is they who decide who enters their flight of stairs, which means that they pretty much have a fortress within the fortress. I fear that when those doors open, they'll come out not to cooperate, not to beg for food, but to hunt, to prey on the weak, and so far we have no solid way of fighting them back. But the crawler and the bandits aren't our only problems. Yesterday, the ape learned that it's strong enough to rip the cages off the windows on the first floor. Worse, it was an apartment in the same stairwell as mine that it chose to attack. I heard his grunts outside, the screams of terrified people downstairs, the weeping mail that was being torn apart. I don't know what the people downstairs did to provoke the beast. Perhaps they thought that the cages would protect them and didn't have their curtains closed. Perhaps they saw the creature and decided to indulge themselves in a staring contest with it. I don't know. I didn't ask. One of the tenants who lived there managed to escape. I could see the terror in her eyes when I walked out of the apartment to see what was going on just in time to have her rush past me. But I knew that someone else was less lucky. I heard the screams of a man who the ape pinned down. I heard the loud thumps when its fist collided with the man's flesh. And you know that thing where you can tell where the sound is coming from by how much it is distorted by the echo? Well, judging by how it all sounded, I realized with terror that the screams were coming from that apartment on the first floor. And that the woman, fleeing in terror, didn't close the door on her way out. Which meant that when the ape would have done with the man downstairs, it would be free to enter the stairwell and roam all 5 floors. Perhaps it wouldn't even be able to leave if it got lost here. I had to do something quick. It was very risky to go down there and try to close the door, but I knew that if I didn't do that at that moment, that I'd be dead within a few days. It wasn't bravery that pushed me to such a reckless action. It was desperation. I was facing a paradox. Stay safe and die or risk your life and live. My body was telling me that I wanted to live some more. I carefully made my way down to the first floor and took a peek at the door. Just as I suspected, it was wide open. I could hear the ape munching on his already silent prey, but I could also the key in the keyhole. Carefully, trying my best not to make a noise, I inched towards the door. I wanted to scream in terror from the fact that my steps weren't completely soundless, but I guess the creature didn't hear it from over the sound of the bones breaking under its bite. I was right next to the door. One more step and I'd be inside the apartment. The ape was now mere meters away from me, somewhere around the corner. If I messed up, I'd have a second, maybe 2 to say my prayers. There was no going back now. Carefully, I slid the key out of its keyhole. On its way out, it clanked. The munching stopped. It took a step. I slammed the door shut and started shoving the key into the keyhole. but my trembling hands couldn't pull that off. A muffled roar came from within the apartment. I felt a massive body slam to the door from the other side. Luckily, the door seemed to be reinforced. The X-10s had made sure to protect themselves from burglars, as with them living on the first floor, they were on the prime targets. My legs were twitching from all the adrenaline and them begging me to run away. I knew that if the creature somehow turned the door's handle, even by accident, it would break out that instant, leaving me no chances to survive. I took a pause, took a deep breath, and slipped the key in. A moment later, I turned it, locking the door. The beast was now subdued. It left the apartment through the window a few hours later, after it was done raging and consuming the man. After that, all the tenants who lived on the first floor moved in with their neighbors above. They brought their food supplies with them, and I'm glad to say that people upstairs didn't mind them. They realized that it would be heartless to let them live on the first floor and hang out on the stairwell, where they were the easy prey. Natasha had an old man move into her as well. Still, even though our casualties were minimal, we'd taken a huge hit. Our home, our submarine submerged in all of this madness, has taken another hit and sunk even deeper. I'm currently thinking about how to find the welder and get him out of there without altering any thugs. The roof is not an option, but there's still a basement door that can be broken. I'll discuss that with Maxim tomorrow. It's time to act. Time